Hi, my name is Antoine Mallette, and I'm from Montreal, Canada. And this is going to be a weird video, um, mostly because it won't be of interest to many people, I assume, and also because it's addressed to one person in particular, um, a guy I saw on YouTube just this afternoon. I watched one of his video while I was searching for new videos about Arno Schmidt, or mentioning Arno Schmidt, the great uh, post-war German writer, the author of Zettels Traum. And the video in question was posted by a guy called George Kors. So this is in a way a response to George's video entitled, "So You Want to Get into German Literature? Start Here, Advice from a Novelist." So thanks for your recommendation. They're really great. I love the fact that you mentioned Alfred Döblin's Berlin Alexanderplatz, which is one of my favorite. And I was immediately hooked when I looked at the thumbnail of the video, because I see you have a beautiful first edition of Arno Schmidt's Zettels Traum, published by Zokam Fischer in 1970. And you're right. In the video, you mentioned that you would like to see a more affordable, maybe pocket-sized edition of the novel, because you're right. It's an expensive book, and it's a hard-to-find book, and it is quite prohibitive for most readers who maybe just want to know what that book is all about. I know because I have a few copies myself of different editions. And the question I guess I have for you, and it's very naive and unloaded question, George, is how would you go about like making a pocket-sized edition of Zettels Traum? The reason I ask is because I've often wondered that myself, like how could Zokamp put a more affordable or a more malleable uh, edition of Zettels Traum. And I came to the conclusion, the sad conclusion maybe, that I personally don't think it's possible. Um, I encourage people to go watch George Kors' uh, video I'm talking about here, just to have an idea of what the book looks like, and then maybe people can have form an opinion of their own. But I have here a uh, it's funny because they call that a Taschenausgabe in German. It's a pocket size, or a paperback edition of the novel Zettels Traum. This edition here is from 2002, and as you can see, it doesn't fit in a lot of pockets. And at the time, it sold for 58 euros, which is about the price I paid for it about like 10 years ago. But anyway, you can see here, if I take any page, really, just to give you an example, this is what Zettels Traum looks like. And you'll notice there are different columns. This is what Arno Schmidt called the Spaltentechnique. You have, let's see here, you have like one column here, you have another column here, and another one here. And each column represents a level of narration. The main column in the center, according to Schmidt himself, represents what he called something like the Hauptgeschichte, so the main history, the main story, which is the more typical type of narration. The main narrator, the main character, who's also the narrator, is called Daniel Paschenstecher, and the whole book tells the story of him in a cabin translating the complete works of Edgar Allan Poe. So one of the Nebenspalten, so peripheral columns, if you want, one is dedicated to quotes from Edgar Allan Poe, mostly quotes from Edgar Allan Poe in English. And the other Nebenspalte is the interior monologue of Pagenstecher. So 3 columns are equally important. They're like 3 different novels in a way. So there's an interesting example here. I don't know, George, if you're aware of that publication. It came out in 2020 and was published by the Arno Schmidt Stiftung, so the Society for Arno Schmidt, let's say. And as you see, it's a reader. So they're Auszüge aus Zettels Traum, so excerpts from Zettels Traum. The book is just 250 pages long, and they're just like a few pages from each chapters from Zettels Traum. But look what they've done. There are no peripheral columns here. So that's an interesting choice. That's a decision that Sorkamp made with the Arno Schmidt Stiftung to drop the columns. I was mostly interested, I was curious, so I got that, but I haven't read that because it's just to give a taste of what the real book is. That's what they say in the introduction anyway. They say, das vorliegende Lesebuch mit seinem Kaleidoskop von Texten aus und über Zettels Traum ist nicht für den passionierten Schmidt-Leser und Zettels Traum-Fachmann gedacht. So, sorry, this reader with his kaleidoscope of excerpts from and about Zettels Traum is not for the passionate Schmidt reader, nor is it for the specialist in Zettels Traum, but it is more, that's what they say, vielmehr will es dem noch zögernden Leser Mut machen, sich dem Lektüreerlebnis auf eine kurze Zeit auszusetzen, in der er entscheiden kann, ob das schwer zu lesende, aber nicht unlesbar Buch etwas für ihn wäre. So it is thought to give like the urge to read the real thing, basically, and to see if indeed the reader wants to put in the effort, the energy to read the whole book. So anyway, have a look at that if you haven't. People who are curious maybe want to get that first to see if they want to buy the real thing, which, by the way, you can buy for quite a lot cheaper if you look, especially on German online bookstores for used books like 8books or booklucke.de. Anyway, you can find cheap copies, like around $100. You can get a copy of Zettels Traum either in the Taschenausgabe, which I have here, or maybe this other edition here that I'm going to show you, which I got when I was in Germany for I think it was my 3rd or 4th trip to Germany about, I don't know, 8 years ago or whatever. It's a case like that, and it's got 4 different, we call them Heften. I don't even know the English word for that. I'm losing my English as the day goes by. There are 4 divisions, if you want, of Zettels Traum. So instead of having one bulky book that you basically can't read unless you're at a table, you can have those still big, but much more readable, manageable Heften, whatever the word is. And the interesting thing with that is it respects here the Spaltentechnik, but also it is exactly as how Schmidt wanted the book to look when it got out in 1970. When you look at the original, you'll see blacked out passages. Words are crossed out. There are handwritings. Technically, Schmidt wanted the corrections to be made before the book was printed. But it was 1970. It would have been extremely expensive to retype the whole thing with the corrections included, and the state of graphic design wasn't naturally as it is right now. So it wasn't as easy to correct the thing. So they just took pictures, photographs of the manuscript, of the typoscript rather, and printed it as is. So Zettels Traum, the original book, is in fact a facsimile of the manuscript, the typoscript. And you also mentioned, just to finish here, the English translation of Zettels Traum, so Bottom's Dreams. It goes for $3,000 on Amazon, as you said, but that's just because they didn't print a lot of copies, and there's a hype. It's not, well, that could be argued, but Bottom's Dreams is not worth $3,000. I'm telling you. I think Dalkey Archive, the publishing house for the English translation by the late John E. Woods, might have said something about a reprint. It would, I think, be in their interest to do that because there's such a hype around Bottom's Dream, right now, and I'm sure it would sell very easily. But I got mine here. It's a heavy book. I don't remember for how much it sold, but I pre-ordered it when I heard that Johnny Woods was finally done with his translation, somewhere around 2018, I think, or 2016, I think it is. I pre-ordered it the year before that and got my copy for like 90 Canadian bucks. So that's what, like, I don't know, 65 US dollars, whatever. I was lucky, of course, but there are copies out there. In fact, you don't have to look very hard for a PDF online. I'm not going to put links or whatever, but if someone wants to read the book, he or she can do it pretty easily. But so yeah, long video for, I guess, nothing. But anyway, I just wanted to show you a few alternatives to you and people who might be interested in reading Zettels Traum out there. There are alternatives, be it the reader here, the paperback edition, or the Heften here, the 4 booklets of Zettels Traum. There was also, maybe one last mention, there was a pirate edition that was made shortly after the original 1970 copy edition came out. A Berlin underground press released a Raubdruck, so a pirate edition of Zettels Traum, and it cost 100 mark less than the original edition, which was listed as at, I think 295 marks or something like that. So significantly cheaper, and it just pissed Arno Schmidt off. Really, it was really mad about it. And there's a good documentary about Arno Schmidt, if you can find it online. It's called Mein Herz gehört dem Kopf. It was made by the French-German television company called Arte, and it's great. It's really, really interesting. And in it, you can hear Schmidt talking about this Raubdruck, this pirate edition, and was really pissed off. And he said something about the fact that people are not willing to work hard to achieve greatness, and he thought very little of the youth. And he says that in his quote. He says something that, West German youth, at least, are willing to just pay cheaper copies of his work that took him years and years to write. They just want it, really. And I guess the what he's trying to say by that, what he was trying to say is that if you work hard enough, you can buy a copy of my book, and it'll be so much less work than I had to put in writing the thing. So there's an interesting reflection behind that. And Arno Schmidt wrote a lot about who the readers of Zettels Traum could be, and he admitted that maybe 300 people in the world are supposed to read Zettels Traum because it's such difficult work, and it's not a book for the jedermann, for the everyman. It was never intended to be such. So anyway, maybe a bit elitist, but that's worth maybe thinking about. I'm sure glad to have copies of Zettels Traum, and I find it's a very fascinating book myself. I'm not. My German is good. I have a BA I have a degree in German studies, and I was lucky enough to have a teacher who mentioned Arno Schmidt because he knew I was into modernist literature and James Joyce and stuff like that. So he mentioned Arno Schmidt, but very few people, even in Germany, are aware of Arno Schmidt. And I'm glad that it's progressively changing and that people even outside of Germany have a curiosity now and have even heard of Arno Schmidt. So thanks to you and channels like yours, and I think there's hope, and I think that we might indeed see a pocket or at least more affordable edition of Zettels Traum soon, even though that thing would probably be 6,000 pages long, depending on the format. But anyway, so good for you, and thanks for your video. So greetings from snowy Montreal. All right, have a good one. Cheers. Bye.